Hey, Falcons fans! We need to have a real conversation right now. Not the sugar-coated, everything's fine, we'll get him next week kind of talk. I'm talking about the raw, unfiltered truth that's been sitting in all of our stomachs like a lead weight since that Berlin disaster. Something is brewing in Atlanta. Something big. Something that could either define our franchise for the next decade or absolutely destroy everything we've been building. And before you click away thinking you know what I'm about to say, trust me, you don't. Because what's happening behind closed doors at the Falcons facility right now? It's bigger than one bad game. It's bigger than one struggling player. This is about a $180 million decision that's haunting us every single snap. I've got information. I've got numbers. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the next 4 weeks will determine whether this franchise rises from the ashes or burns completely to the ground. Stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. The Berlin nightmare we can't wake up from. Let's set the scene. Olympic Stadium, Berlin, Germany. The NFL takes our beloved Falcons overseas, and what do we get? A nightmare. An absolute, gut-wrenching, soul-crushing overtime loss to the Indianapolis Colts that had every single one of us questioning everything. But here's what nobody's talking about. Here's the real story that the mainstream media is completely missing. After that game, our starting quarterback walked into that underground press conference room. 2 minutes. That's all he gave us. 2 minutes of visible pain, frustration, and the weight of an entire franchise on his shoulders. When asked if he was frustrated with himself, he didn't even speak, he just nodded. And when they asked why? 3 words that cut deeper than any loss ever could. I gotta play better. What needs to improve? Everything. Then he walked out. Done. Finished. The most brutally honest moment we've seen from a Falcons quarterback in years. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Here's where the plot thickens, Falcons family. Because while our guy is taking all the blame, there's a massive story developing that could change everything about how we view this situation. The numbers don't lie, and they're terrifying. All right, let's get real with the stats because this is where things get ugly. Against the Colts, our quarterback completed 12 of 28 passes. 12 of 28. That's a completion percentage that makes you want to throw your remote through the TV. 177 yards and 1 touchdown. 1 fumble early. But here's the stat that should have every Falcons fan screaming. 5 completions in the entire second half. 5 out of 16 attempts. When we needed him most, when the game was on the line, we got 5 completions. That's not just bad, folks. That's catastrophic. But wait, it gets worse. Over our 4-game losing streak, yeah, I said it, 4 games, we haven't converted a single third down between 6 and 10 yards. Not one. We've had 18 chances. 18 opportunities to keep drives alive in that crucial middle distance passing situation, and we've come up empty every single time. You know what that tells me? That tells me we've got a problem. A serious problem. Now, national analysts are starting to pile on. ESPN's dropping articles with headlines that make us sick to our stomachs. They're comparing our guy to the other quarterbacks drafted around him, and folks, the comparisons are not kind. They're saying he simply hasn't looked like an 8th overall pick. They're saying he struggles under pressure, 27th out of 33 quarterbacks in drop-back success rate when blitzed. 27th. They're questioning his accuracy, his decision-making, his mobility, his ability to handle the NFL-level rush. And here's the kicker. Here's the part that should have every single person in Falcons Nation furious. We invested $180 million in another quarterback just months before drafting this kid. $180 million sitting on the bench while we're watching this struggle unfold in real time. Was it worth it? That's the question keeping Arthur Smith, our front office, up at night. But wait, there's another side to this story. Now, before you lose your mind completely, before you start calling for heads to roll and trades to be made, let me hit you with something the national media is completely ignoring. Something that changes the entire narrative if you're willing to look deeper than the surface level stats. Our head coach, the man who sees everything that happens in practice, in film sessions, in the locker room, came out after that Berlin debacle and said something that should make us all pause and think. Mike's developing well, he said. We need to execute better for Mike. Did you catch that? For Mike. Not just Mike needs to execute better. No. We need to execute better for him. He went even further. He said, and I quote, Mike is going to be so hard and critical of himself that it's always going to be his fault, no matter what and where they were. But we have some things that we can clean up around him. Around him, people. This is huge. Our coach is essentially telling us, if you read between the lines, if you understand NFL speak, that this isn't just a quarterback problem. This is a system problem. This is a protection problem. This is a drops problem. This is an everyone problem. He specifically mentioned issues in protection. Drop passes. Breakdowns and execution that are happening all around our young signal caller while everyone wants to pin this entire collapse on one guy who's made just 11 career starts. 11 starts, Falcons family. Think about that for a second. We're ready to write off a top 10 pick after 11 games? In what universe does that make sense? What happens next will shock the NFL. Here's what I need you to understand, Falcons Nation. Here's the information I promised you at the beginning of this video. Our coaching staff still believes. Our head coach came out and said he feels really great about our quarterback's command. He said the kid is developing and doing the right things. He knows what he wants to do. This isn't a coach making excuses. This is a coach who sees the potential that we all hoped for when we made that pick. But here's the tension. How long can you talk about potential when the results aren't showing up on Sundays? How long can you say he's developing when we're sitting on a 4-game losing streak and watching our playoff hopes evaporate? The next 4 weeks will tell us everything. We'll see if the protection gets better. We'll see if receivers start making catches. We'll see if our young quarterback can silence the doubters and prove that the 8th overall pick was worth it. Or we'll see the wheels come completely off. The truth Falcons Nation needs to hear. So here's the brutal truth that we all need to accept. We're watching a young quarterback go through NFL-level growing pains while sitting on a $180 million backup plan. We've got a coaching staff that believes in development and process while fans are screaming for wins and results. We've got national analysts ready to write off our future while our own head coach is still talking about potential. This is messy. This is complicated. This is exactly what happens when you try to thread the needle on quarterback decisions in the modern NFL. The kid walked out of that Berlin press conference taking all the responsibility. I gotta play better. Everything. That's leadership. That's accountability. That's the mindset you want in a franchise quarterback. But leadership and accountability don't mean anything if you can't complete passes in the second half. If you can't convert third downs. If you can't handle the blitz. So what's the answer? I honestly don't know, Falcons family. And I think that terrifies everyone involved, from the front office to the coaching staff to the fans wearing red and black every Sunday. What comes next will define us. The next 4 weeks are everything. We'll see if this young quarterback can take that brutal honesty from Berlin and turn it into improvement. We'll see if the coaching staff can actually execute better around him like they say they will. We'll see if this team can pull itself out of this 4-game nosedive before the season is completely lost. And most importantly, we'll see if the decision to draft a quarterback 8th overall while sitting on a massive veteran contract was genius or disaster. One thing I know for sure, this story is far from over. The narrative is still being written. The chapters ahead will determine whether this becomes a story of perseverance and development or a cautionary tale of NFL front office mistakes. Either way, Falcons Nation, we're all along for this ride. Through the struggle. Through the pain. Through whatever comes next. Because that's what we do. We're Falcons fans. We've been through worse. We've survived 28-3. We can survive this. The question is, will our quarterback survive it too? Stay tuned, Falcons family. The real story is just beginning. Go Falcons!